FRC fam, again, it's Chai.
And Rap. Hello.
Again, welcome to another show for this month. And this month is kind of different. We're gonna be focusing on blessing ba ang pagiging single. So, very juicy, very exciting tayo ngayon, Rap.
Very contrasting yan sa past month's episode natin on Valentine's, though, when we had our couples, or at least half of the couples with us, talking about their experiences in their long-term relationships. So exciting to. Exciting, no?
Yes. Kaya introduce na natin yung guest natin, Rap.
Yes, di ka napapatagalin pa. He's actually working as a youth worker for Christ Youth in Action. He directs the QC chapter of CYA that's handling yung Ateneo de Manila and UP Diliman side. And he is also a member of a lay brotherhood called Servants of the Word. So it's an ecumenical community of single men who make a private vow of chastity, obedience, and poverty. So maybe we'll hear more of that from him mismo, no? As he shares his stories on that. So let's all now welcome JR Quiring.
Hello,
everyone. JR.
Hi, Chai. Hi, Rap.
Hello.
Hi, JR. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So great to have you here, JR, as one of our guests in FRC.
We welcome you today and along with our FRC fam out there who's watching today. So thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited. Quite nervous.
Yeah, so let's get to it, no? Parang we looked into some statistics and 4 out of 10 Filipinos are single today. As of Feb 2023, nagkaroon ng medyo decrease from 2021, 80% ng 2022 ang mga kinakasal. And of course, we've already, as mentioned earlier by Rap, no, that you're part of this ecumenical community of single men who make a private vow of chastity, obedience, and poverty. So maybe you can provide more context, no? What is this community? Para our FRC fam out there could also get like a little context of what you guys are about.
So we are basically missionaries. We're not priests. But we also decided na it's possible for us to live single also for the sake of our mission and for the sake of really living our lives for God. And we are comprised of different Christian traditions. Pero ako, myself, I'm a Catholic. When I got to meet this group of men, I was just really, really attracted to the life. And then eventually I decided to be one of them.
You mentioned being attracted to it, right?
Yes, yes.
What made it attractive for you at that moment?
Many things. One is would be, of course, love for the Lord. I've met really passionate, excellent guys who could be doing something else, like say grow in their career, build strong families, but they decided to live very differently. And of course, a little bit like obscure kasi we're not priests. So of course, we have, especially in our culture, may status yung priesthood eh. So, but these men, parang sino sila? but they're really living quite differently because they love the Lord. I was also attracted with the idea of greater freedom, setting aside important, really good things so that they could be freer to be on mission, to spend more time with the Lord and study His Word, but also be together to support the life that we have chosen. So I was very attracted to do those two main things. Yung love for the Lord, that's very quite radical, and then greater freedom to do mission. So yeah.
I'd say there are different circumstances of people who are single. Like, merong mga single na, well, una sa lahat kasi bata pa sila. They're still figuring out like, ano ba gagawin nila sa buhay nila. Dapat siguro single muna, no? Mga nasa grade school, high school, ganyan, ano? But there are also people like JR, as you were sharing, who have already decided to really live single for a specific purpose. You mentioned it's different from priesthood, no? Is it also different from what we call the single blessedness status?
Yeah, I guess yung single blessedness status would really be a kind of expression of their choice to live single. So I would also say that what I'm doing with my life is a single blessedness status in the same way that priests would do, because they're really also remaining single. But the expression, some would be, I know some would choose to live single for the Lord in their own situation, meaning they're not part of any group. They decided lang na, I'm gonna be single, I'm gonna serve wherever the Lord calls me, and then that's me, but I'm not connected to any group. Ako, personally, I think that I could live my life as a single man better if I'm with other brothers or other men who are also doing the same thing. Feeling ko parang I'm not gonna be so faithful if I'm just left on my own.
Mahirap.
Maybe we have more questions about it. I think it's a juicy
Yeah.
topic, but the whole idea of like faithfulness, I think it makes sense for me to also be living that out with other
Yeah.
guys.
I want to also highlight on what you mentioned a while ago, how this kind of living is kind of, you mentioned the word obscure. And maybe
Mhm.
because it really isn't the norm for
Yeah,
most of
yeah.
us, especially here in the Philippines. So I wanted to like just connect it to the statistics that we mentioned a while ago.
Mhm.
And also just the culture here in the Philippines, like how married life is kind of the default. What do you think is the relevance of having this kind of single life in our society, maybe particularly in the Philippines right now?
For sure, there could be a lot of reasons why people would remain single, and some of them, I'd say it's unfortunate, like because some of our young people would look at marriage and family life in a very different lens, uh, and that's quite unfortunate. That they don't want to be married for different reasons. That might be either for practical or because they just have a very, in some sense, unfortunate view of marriage and family life. But for me, I think it's important for us to see the value of marriage and family. And for me, when I decided, okay, I'm going to be single for the Lord, it's important for me to to have a healthy view of marriage and family life, to make sure na my reasons for being single is not like selfish, like gusto ko lang umiwas sa responsibility or like I hate
Uh-huh.
children. I can't stand them. And that's why I'm just gonna be single. And then, okay, sige, kay Lord na lang ako kasi ayoko ng family. So in my case, that's not the case. I grew up having my parents as like, oh, I believe they raised us well. They help us get to know God. So I had that kind of like vision growing up na, oh, I'm gonna be like my dad. I'm gonna be like my parents who would like raise up a family. So I went to college with that mindset na mag-aasawa ako. Ayoko magpare kasi yung gusto ko lang sa pagpapare yung pwede silang uminom ng mompo. Ganun. Ganun lang yung dream ko ng pagpapare before. Pero I felt like I really didn't have desire naman to live single. Parang all my life, I knew that I'm gonna be married. But when I got to know the Lord very personally in my life, that's when I became more open to God directs our lives. He has plans for us. He has this vision how we could live our lives fully to Him. When I realized that, I became much more open. So ano yung gusto ni Lord para sa buhay ko? Parang
Yeah.
how can I live my life for God? Because of course, admittedly, I had this vision for my life. Yes, I was saying now, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna be a family man, tapos I'm gonna serve the Lord na rin. Pero partly, it was also actually like, because this is really what I wanted. I want to be famous, I want to get rich, and then I want to have the most beautiful wife. But when I became more open, that God has paths for us with the end goal that we can live our lives fully to Him, then we gotta figure that out. So I started became more open to that idea na, oh nga no, parang I was just like fixated with my own ambitions and vision. I never really asked, where can I really love the Lord best? So when I started asking that question, oh boy, like things took turns in ways that I
Uh-huh.
didn't expect. But I got here really thinking na buti na lang when I was in college, I was confronted with that question. Cut the long story short, yes. So I made a choice because of being open to what God has for me.
Very
Yeah,
powerful
actually,
question, no?
yes.
Oo.
And we have a lot of things there with what you said. No? I actually have a lot of questions. So
Aha. Go
let
for
me
it,
press
Chai.
a little bit more.
Sure,
Parang you
sure.
mentioned how you became more open. There was a
Mhm.
transition. It was open to you when you were in college. But I'm curious, like, were you in a relationship at that time? Was it an easy decision? Like,
Yeah.
how did it? How did you like? Okay, I'm gonna put my foot down and I'm gonna get into this
Yeah.
community, that
Mhm.
single blessedness life, and devote myself to God. Like, because yeah, it was parang I'm just really curious, and I'm pretty sure the FRC fam out there na mga may relationship,
Mhm.
Oo.
baka curious kayo na parang, paano ka nag-decide?
Yes.
So
Tama,
let me press on that
tama.
more.
Yeah, first and foremost, if you're in a relationship, I don't want naman to be the cause of your breakup.
That's not what you're
But-
saying.
But like, I think it's worth asking pa rin even if you're already in a relationship. Ano ba yung gusto ni Lord para sa buhay ko? I was in high school when I was somehow really, like a high school guy getting into relationships. So I had my serious relationships in high school. But those also relationships somehow revealed to me how horrible a boyfriend I was. So
Oh.
like so parang that really brought out like a selfish guy, conceited, yung lahat ng ayaw ko sa sarili ko, doon ko nakita because I was in a relationship that required me to give myself. So when that happened, I decided in college na, sheesh, I'm gonna get into a serious relationship when I'm really ready. But of course, being a guy with lots of hormones, even if I had that thinking, I wasn't really in a official relationship, but I would find myself entangled in like getting close to this someone and then this girl being like
Mga
having MUs.
MU. Mga
Oh,
malabong
alam niyo na
usapan.
yun. Like teenager to like say even like early college years. Ganyan. But in college, I made a decision. I'm not gonna get into dating first until I work on myself and maybe like for the lack of better term, more mature. That was a little bit hard for me even to make that decision kasi nga ang daming magaganda. Ang dami. But good thing that there were also people like me when I got into college who also decided the same thing. So, parang supportahan na lang kami, especially with my friends na who are also guys like, shish, oh my gosh, like, gusto ko ng ligawan to, pero hindi, I made the decision. Yung ganon. And so, like, kaya mo yan, bro! And then we support you. So that was helpful. And then I decided to be more open to the possibility of living single for the Lord for the rest of my life when I was about to graduate. So like, I'm going to investigate this possibility. So I became much more open.
So what I'm seeing here is that there was a transition. Parang you made the choice initially to use it as a step, I guess,
Yes.
for you to be mature.
Mhm.
And then like apparently after a few years of training, parang you got to a point na, okay, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Wasn't there ever a point na you felt you were mature enough to actually enter into a relationship? Like, uy,
Mm.
parang ready na ako.
Yes.
Yeah.
Juicy.
Oh.
Ganito
Nako, I
yun.
touched
Yeah.
something
So,
there.
eto na nga.
So ito na nga. Yeah, so I decided to take it more seriously to have a possibility of being single for the Lord right after graduation. So I joined this group, Servants of the Word. And then after 2 years, I felt like it's not for me kasi ang lakas talaga ng desire ko na magkapamilya and I felt like when I was praying, parang the Lord wasn't saying naman na, oh, go this way. So I tried that route. So I left and then I discontinued my investigation of being single for the Lord. Ano naman, I'm gonna go with the possibility of me being married. So within that process, I didn't date yet. But I was already like, okay, sino ba dito yung pwede? Yung ganun. So I started entertaining the possibility of marrying somebody. But something happened along the way that parang when I'm already thinking about like leaving mission work and then I'm thinking about family life, parang dun lang binalik ng Panginoon sa akin na ano ba yung mga desires ko in the first place when I was actually in college and then thinking about being single for the Lord. So parang I just needed time for me to be aware of the world and then the complexity of life and my own brokenness and my own awareness of myself. And then I realized a greater desire for me, one, to love the Lord really fully. Second, to be more available for mission. I feel like there's something in the God has given me, and I can contribute to building God's kingdom with what He has given me. And I think I can do that with if I am more free. Meaning, like, I know that marriage is good, family is good, but that's also somehow gonna limit me to serve the Lord in the best way that I can. And I know because that's also a calling and that's how you can serve the Lord. But I felt like God is calling me somewhere else. I didn't know yet what exactly was that, but parang mas umiigting lang yung desire ko in my heart to be more available for whatever the Lord has for me. I became much more open again. Yeah, reopen that investigation or like that desire to live single for the Lord. So after much prayer and asking around and haggling with God, I eventually went back to the servants of the word and proceeded with my formation and training, what we call lifelong vows. So I decided, okay, this is it, Lord. Ito na. I'm gonna decide na talaga to live single for you and for your people and for your mission.
Amazing. What I see consistently there is really the importance of having attentiveness to what God is saying and where God is leading you. Di ba, Chai? Don't you think?
Yeah, parang consistent yung haggling nga with God.
Oo.
I think that was like a consistent part of it. Mm-mm.
Yeah, kasi like, I was already, ready na ako manligaw So meron akong like, ito muna yung susubukan ko si ganyan. Baka madulas sa kayo pangalan. No?
Okay lang.
Nagkaroon. So,
May edit
nagkaroon
naman
ng girl.
So like this one. And then, buti na lang, I was really trying to pray and seek the Lord. Kasi bago pa ako mag-ask, parang ni-reveal na ni Lord. So, na-spare pa ako ng, of course, like, the awkwardness and like, paano kung gusto rin pala ako tapos we're together and then I had to break up that because of like this calling. So, like all these things. So, I was really thankful na at the opportune time, God spoke to me and I was there to listen also. So, for me, I think that was God's grace.
So, nagkaroon ng girl.
Hindi natuloy. Hindi ko na tinuloy. Hindi ko na tinuloy.
Nagkaroon ng red flag na parang, red flag, gano'n.
Yes. Or yung red stop sign, like say,
stop sign.
Don't proceed, gano'n. No, yeah.
So yung red flag pala, na-save din naman si girl kasi nga, you were up for something else.
Yes. Otherwise, parang sakit pa niya sa ulo yun.
Oo nga.
Naku, bibreakan mo ako middle of the relationship? Yeah.
Magalit pa siya kay Lord, gano'n.
Oo nga. Pinagpalit mo ako kay Lord. Mga gano'n. Actually, I'm interested now to hear more of yung story. Like you were saying, JR, how you got into this decision.
Yes.
Living it out. Siguro let's delve deeper to the pros and cons. There's always this question, or at least notion, that those who are living single are missing out on something. And that something is, of course, yung having a relationship and everything that comes with it. Can you say something or comment on that thought?
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot of there's a list of cons. But I'd say siguro yung pinaka-significant for me, the older I get, the companionship is very real. Like the longing for stable relationships is there. As I get older, parang yung maaasahan mo lang na relationship na stable, that fills you relationally and emotionally. I feel like it's very real for me. The nature of our life and the servants of the word, we can be assigned in different places, and then you might live with other brothers this year, and then next year, iba naman yung kasama mo. So, I can count on them, and I think they're faithful to me, and they're gonna be there when I need them. But the stability and the emotional connection, I mean, it isn't there. Like, it's not as if like I can look at them as my spouse. Iba yun. So, iba yung relational connection that you're really gonna get from a spouse, from a married partner. So, for me, that's quite significant. Na I don't have that. Second, which I think most of those people who decided to do this or to live this life, to live their lives this way, yung unknowns ba na what if like say pag tumanda ako, who's gonna take care of me? Am I gonna be
Mm.
stable enough to do that? To get by in life. I think that's very real. So for me, even if I have brothers and I'm in an organization and I believe that I'm stable enough finances or even like caring when I'm old, ganyan. Unknown pa rin for me. Compared to like say if you have spouse or children, parang may ano ka, may safety net ka eh. So so for me, it's really a call of faith to like, yes, there's a possibility that I'm gonna get old and get frail, weak and sickly, and then I don't know who's gonna take care of me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I don't know if we got enough resources to like say to support and help me in those times of crisis. Ako blessed ako na I got other brothers who can do that for me, but even then I need to take responsibility for myself.
Yeah.
I can't blame others for that, but much more so the people I know who are not part of any group but who are also living single for the Lord. I can't imagine how much they're actually trying to really like be on top of
Yeah.
everything and take responsibility for their life, especially with their relationship.
That's so true. Like there are, as we mentioned kanina, like there are different circumstances of living single. And it's great to hear from your experiences, just to at least open our eyes, FRC fam, how you guys are doing it. Actually, I wanted to go back to the cons that you mentioned, and maybe we can actually talk about how you already deal with them,
Yeah, yeah.
as you mentioned, kanina. So I was interested to hear that.
So, in terms of significant, stable relationships, I need to admit it na it's really a lack on my part. But first and foremost, I need to accept that. Kasi if I ignore
Ah,
that, I'm gonna fill it that in that void with different things, and it's not gonna work. That's gonna cause me problems. But somehow that gives me hope na instead of like wallowing in despair because of that, that gives me also hope naman na yes, that's what heaven is for. Na
mm,
pag nakarating ako ng langit, everything, all my needs are gonna be met and I'm gonna be whole and perfect face to face with God. So somehow that's fueling me for a greater desire for heaven and
yeah,
for the Lord Himself. But I can go to the Lord to somehow, Lord, comfort mo naman ako kung medyo nalulungkot ako. Or as I would tell people, like every vocation is gonna be a source of blessing, but also a source of our cross. I mean, if you're following the Lord, you need to pick up your cross daily.
yeah,
In living single for the Lord, that's gonna be part. That's one of the crosses that you're gonna take. And if you do that, I hope that the result would be a greater desire for the Lord and to be in heaven. Does that make sense? I don't know if that
Yeah.
yeah,
makes. And some of those things that can't be filled up, then that's gonna be my source of hope. Na instead of malulungkot ako o magde-despair ako, sa punot dulo, lahat naman tayo pupunuin ng Panginoon. So kung
yeah.
ngayon wala ako nito, in the end, the Lord will make me whole. So I just convert it to hope rather than despair. I think
Despair.
it's very
Uh-huh.
important for me.
I'm hearing all these cons and like how you're overcoming them, and it really sounds inspiring to me to hear yung whole despair to hope and then that looking forward to heaven. So
Mm.
we have all of that. But I wanna ask a question. Like how did your family react?
Especially when I finished college, that was, I think, the hardest for my parents because they have big dreams for me. Parang mas okay pa
Uh,
nga sa kanila na, can't you just be a priest? At least like may
Oo nga,
status.
tama.
Oo.
Pari ka na lang.
Yeah,
Ganun, tama.
then the whole parish will take care of you. People will feed you. Ganyan. So, una, yung pinaka-difficult is they just didn't understand. They don't have like a blueprint of how it could look like. So, of course, they have so many questions. So, who's gonna take care of you? Are you gonna be stable? What if like you get so poor and whatnot? So, whole practical question, it's all there. And I
Yeah.
needed to make them realize that I'm already a grown up. I can take care of myself. And if I made a mistake, I'll take responsibility of those and do something about the practical consideration. I'm fortunate enough that I have parents who taught me first and foremost to love the Lord. So when I made a decision, I told them, kasalanan niyo to eh.
Ito yung tinuro nyo sa akin.
Sabi niyo sa akin, mahalin ko si God.
Ayan.
Yan na tuloy.
So ayan. So somehow gets nila yun na okay, he's doing this because he loves the Lord, he wants to follow God. But it was a little bit easier for them to somehow recognize na okay, if this is God and this is my vocation, then I should follow this. So yun, mas naintindihan nila yun, but it was just harder for them yung the concept of like the practical implication.
Like you mentioned earlier, how you've traversed everything, no, like life of yours, thinking that your needs, like right now you're facing them, you're yearning for those needs will be met in heaven. You
Yes.
mentioned like that. So what about your sexual needs? Like, do you
Yes.
how? Of course, it's being suppressed. Not to lie, we're all human here, right? But
Yes.
how is that? How do you overcome that? Like, do you still
Yeah.
expect to be fulfilled in heaven? Like, what's the thought process behind that?
I have to wrestle with that and also recognize that that's a valid need. For me to like ignore that and say like, you know, I'm a holy man and I want to be holy. Dapat wala akong ganon. I think that's unrealistic and that's not even healthy. So I have those needs. I'd say like any other needs, it's possible to not necessarily just suppress but manage and subdue. Ibig sabihin, I can train myself to handle those kinds of desires and urges. I'd say, for example, nagugutom ako. Kailangan ba pag nagutom ako, kumain ako lagi? Hindi naman. So I can somehow train myself to regulate those impulses and somehow manage those kinds of desires and then put them according to my will and my purpose. Of course, everything under God's will. But in terms of like, I'm not enslaved by my passions and my desires.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then it takes training and takes somehow, in my case, years of like, subduing myself and subjecting myself to a certain kind of discipline so that I can handle that area of my life. Yes, did I answer your question?
Yeah, so medyo mind over matter.
And also takes a lot of grace and prayer na, Lord, kung gusto mo na ganito ako and I want to be faithful with my
Help me.
life, help me. So later on, I've recognized like say greater strength to like subdue myself and not to subject myself to different things. If you can avoid things that will tempt you, then avoid that as much as possible. So, but I needed also to somehow, understand myself. Bakit ako ganito? Bakit ganito yung desires ko? What gets me and what are the things that I fall into? And I would need some healing, I would need some processing, I would need a lot of grace for me to understand that, accept that for who I am, and then bring it to the Lord and say like, Lord, but if you still want me to live this kind of life, you'll be the one to change me. So, and then it becomes like a process.
Galing.
If anything, I see the similarity of, I think kanina kasi we were mentioning naman yung process mo, JR, on getting to decide on single life. And along the way, of course, there are feelings of wanting to get into a relationship. Kasi in the long run, dapat talaga hindi ito yung mga magde-decide ng actions natin, di ba? Like when we talk about commitment or being committed to a single life or being committed to following the Lord, a word for the day ko yun na yun eh. Subdue. We should be able to subdue our feelings, not just manage them, but really like understand how they affect us. And that's a huge takeaway for me. Just to
Great.
note that.
Yeah, kasi for example, like when I was in college, I was taught to really like, develop my relationship with the Lord. That requires discipline already.
Yeah.
Parang hindi ko pa naman naisip na maging single for the Lord. But like say, pray. But there are times that I don't want to pray. Tulog ako, Lord.
Natok ako, diba?
But I need to manage those impulses and desires of like oversleeping so that I can really build a habit as I go through my relationship with the Lord. Like over the pandemic, like the
Mm.
yung pagkain, tsaka hindi pag-exercise. Like, ang sarap na walang gagawin, di ba? Just work from home, tapos nandun ka lang, nakahilata.
Dami nakarelate doon.
So like, oh my gosh, but I need to discipline myself so that I can be in a shape where I can be best to like serve the Lord, whatever my goals in life.
I wanted I wanted to ask you this. It sounds so perfect, right? That you're
No.
I mean, it sounds like kasi you've come a long way. So it sounds so inspiring. It sounds so wow, like kaya niya yun. So I think FRC fam out there could relate to this perspective as well, no? But I'm curious to know, like, do you have like a figure, a consultant, someone who guides you along the process? Like, I'm unfamiliar of the structure of your community,
Yes,
so maybe you
yes.
can enlighten us on that.
Mm.
Yeah, so we got also like certain structure to organize us. So basically, we have leaders also. So
Yeah.
in other congregations, they call them superior. For us, because we're ecumenical, meaning like we're coming from different traditions, we want to have like a more like neutral naming for our structure. So we call them elders. So we have leaders naman to help us discern our vocation, help us live our lives. And even like, thank God then, yung mga brothers ko, those leaders, they were very honest with me. Like, say, ganito ka, ganyan ka. So even now, I have that leaders, I have group of brothers that I regularly check in with every week. And then, sometimes they correct me na, bakit mo ginawa yan? Ba't di ka nag-iisip? Yung mga ganun.
Mga batok.
Kasi, yeah, I would say I might have come a long way and that I can attribute that to God's grace. And I mean, I think so. And I thank God for that. But I still find myself in sometimes in a very difficult spot, but daily, it's a commitment. So sometimes there will be days na it's really not a good day. But there will also be days na okay lang, saks lang. But there will be days na talagang hirap na hirap ako. And I would need my brothers, people around me to tell me how I'm doing and how they're gonna support me.
Very crucial yung support system, I feel. Kasi
Yes,
you
yes,
mentioned yung kanina na parang you have to be surrounded by the same people kasi you won't
yes.
be able to overcome all of it
Correct,
when you're
correct.
alone.
Part of how I address my need, yung emotional needs ko, yung void, while I can't have it fully, I still need to address na, one, I need friends and I need really good relationships. Apart from my brothers, kasi yung mga brothers namin, some of them like say 60-year-olds, 50s, for ako 35, so medyo parang even if I love them so much and they love me too, they're not gonna be my friends' friends. So I need to find somehow my age who can understand parang a mind of a 35-year-old or a 30s guy, ganyan, di ba? So I've learned also to really build relationships, even outside my brotherhood. But my point is, I needed to have those regular connection with my friends. And that has been very enriching for me. Para healthy din yung relationship ko with women. Hindi ako yung tipong laging uptight and say like, uy, may babae, bawal yan.
OA no, no.
So I need
Wala,
to have
bawal
those...
pala ako dito.
Exactly. So I needed friendships that will give me healthy perspective of relationships and friendships, especially as how I relate with women also.
Kamusta kayo dyan, FRC fam? How are you hearing our discussions? I hope that you are getting a lot, learning a lot. Actually,
Yeah,
kung may mga tanong kayo, comment lang kayo dyan no? Oo.
I hope you're not weirded out.
Oo nga. I was gonna say nga, naalala ko kanina, I asked you about the cons. Baka hindi ma-encourage yung FRC fam natin. Hindi natin natanong yung pros.
We got this image in the Bible. Of course, it's gonna be very spiritual yung first pros ko. Kasi that's why I'm living for the Lord.
Yeah, that's the point. Basically.
So there's an image in the Bible. They call Levites. Parang they're a tribe na they're really earmarked for priests and for the affairs of spiritual affair of the whole people of Israel. And then parang they look at God as their treasure and their portion. So they don't have lands, they don't have all these like privileges that other people have, but they have the greatest privilege of attending to the temple or attending to the worship of God. So having this kind of life that's really fully dedicated to do that and to depend on the Lord and nothing else, parang it's such a comforting thought for me. Needless to say, of course, there can be times na even if that's what I want for my life, pwedeng mawala yung vision na yun. So I still need some, discipline and reminding myself what I'm doing that.
Yeah.
But because that's what I want for my life, I'm really able to do that practically and even like spiritually. Next siguro would be yes, I don't want to parang run away from responsibilities because I have other responsibilities also. But needless to say, I'm much freer to do what I think God wants me to do. If I'm tied up to a woman and kids, being committed to that, that would mean that I can be free to do other things.
Yeah.
For the Lord. So for example, I get to travel to different places. Like sometimes I would tell God like, Lord, ano kaya feeling ng mamartir ganyan, mapadala ka sa Middle East or China or whatever. For me, I think that's so presumptuous to even dream for that. Pero my point is, I won't be able to have that kind of luxury to be sent elsewhere if I have a family. If I think that God wants me to do this, or my brothers or our mission would send me or would make me have a shift of like say service here and there that would require much commitment, I can be available for that. So basically, I mean, to cut the long story short, the greater availability for mission is such a big pro for me. Marami blessing ng pagiging single for the Lord. But for me, for the lack of time, those are two things are very significant.
I'm sorry. I have so many things in my head. Let me break it down. No, because of course you're at the point in your life where it's all about God now. Parang how do you make that choice? Like ano yung meron ba siyang okay, your community right now, is there like things that you can't do? Of course, chastity, those vows, like kasi syempre for some single people, like them being free is like, oh, partying outside, like, oh, party, I get to spend my friends, especially if they're young, diba? And they have all the time. What are the lines na maybe you can give like a perspective on?
Yeah. So I think for me, because I'm choosing this kind of life, that's I want to be fully for this, automatic excluded na yung ibang bagay. But to lower it down maybe, I think some people would be single naman din, not necessary for the Lord. But they would remain single. But I think there's a philosopher would say an unexamined life is not worth living for. So I'd say it would be good for us to examine first our purpose. Like if you're gonna take this route, why are you gonna take that? And then be clear so that you can actually reach that. If you have that, that's automatically gonna exclude other things that will not help you get there. So for those people who would want to live single for something, I think yung very important yung something. Ma-define mo yun. And that will automatically help you have those boundaries. Kasi pag hindi na yung mga bagay na papasukin mo won't help you get there, then you shouldn't be involved in that, or you shouldn't even be investing yourself to that. So for many young people or for many single people who would find themselves single and like would be in this, crazy world of partying and getting wasted and then work ulit, ganyan, my encouragement is like, what is your life about? And define that. And I don't want you to think naman na life shouldn't be fun. And it's just about purpose. I'm having fun. Like I have a lot of things that I enjoy that I'm able to do precisely because I'm not married. So I get to play frisbee almost every week. And then I get to do sports and do other things here and there. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have fun and shouldn't be doing other things. But if your life is not going anywhere because you haven't figured out your purpose yet, I think it's about time to find that out or to figure that out. And then you realize you don't need other things that you find yourself in. That's actually not helpful for you.
Yes. Medyo in awe pa nga ako sa mga answers mo right now, to be honest with you. But let me just browse quickly there. So is there a right time to actually ponder on that?
I don't think there's really like, like an age, ganyan. I think if you are seriously following the Lord will also help you reach there. To help our viewers, our family there, I would say na clear sa akin na I need to work on different things first before I would even think about my vocation. If I'm going to live single for the Lord, I certainly don't want to live single for the Lord because I'm selfish. So I kind of like somehow work on my character, and I know that we can't be perfect anyway, and
Yeah.
we're always gonna have like flaws here and there. But I felt like over the years I recognized, but there's also a point where we can say, I think I've got myself to a point na I can say my character is already shaped and I'm ready for me to give myself. Second, yung discipline, I think it's important. So when we get ourselves to a certain degree of discipline, meaning you're disciplined enough to take responsibility for your life, I think that's a good gauge. I think it's an area of discipline and taking responsibility. So for me, crucial yun. Kasi when I talk to
Mm-hmm.
my parents, I had to tell them, you can count on me. Like, I'm making this decision and I'm taking responsibility for myself. My dad told me after I told him, my ambition for you don't really matter kasi eventually ikaw naman talaga yung ikaw yung mabubuhay para sa sarili mo. So, I'm just proud, sabi ng tatay ko sa akin, I'm just proud that you can be a man who's capable of making choices for yourself. And I was like, I can treasure this. And for me, that was
Yeah.
also a defining moment na, sheesh, I'm a man now. And like, yes, I can take responsibility and he believes in me. So, but I needed to prove him that. Like, I needed to show my parents and people around me na maaasahan ako.
Ako, what I'm realizing from what you've been sharing with us, JR, is how commitment to, for example, a single life isn't parang the principles of commitment there are same with like wherever you need to commit
Oh,
to.
definitely, yes.
Like it's really about discipline or even actually just setting a clear goal for
Mhm.
yourself so that it becomes parang mas malinaw kung ano ba yung
Ah,
mga dapat hindi mo ginagawa at
mhm.
ano yung mga dapat na pinagtutuunan mo ng pansin at this point in time. Whether
Yes.
you're single for the circumstance of like you're still young and
Yeah.
still building up yourself up to like you're already there trying to choose your path. You know, like it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
I see how very similar and it assures me na parang, okay, kaya pala importante na bata pa lang tayo. Medyo pinupush na natin yung
Yep.
discipline natin sa sarili natin kasi magagamit natin to sa bigger decisions natin in life, such as vocation.
I'd like what you said, Rap, kasi some people might look at our life and say like, oh, like, sobrang privileged kayo, ganyan. As if
Mm.
like this is so much better than the other. So for me, it's an even playing field. Like we can be holy, we can be the best version of ourselves, whatever way we go to. So it's not also like say, oh, kami lang yung mga nakakaangat sa spiritual life, ha? Kami lang yung mga
Mm.
pwede maging santo. Pag married ka, hindi.
Yeah.
Or like say, married people always say, ay, kawawa naman kayo, kami we're enjoying the best years of our life, ganyan, ganyan. But no, like, whatever way you choose, as I said kanina, that's gonna be a source of blessing and a cross. So wala naman talagang like, ito lang yung dapat, ito yung nakakaangat, ito yung mas privileged. I don't think that's the
Ah,
case.
yeah.
But both states of life, you need to have a certain readiness and you need to start kung bata ka pa, ngayon na,
Ah,
isipin mo na how to be a better person for the sake of your future.
what can you say to people who are still figuring things out? Like maybe, or, even specifically, how can someone know that he or she is called to be single?
I would want to say first, I'm not oblivious to different realities in our lives in the world. So I happen to be able to, like, say, make this deliberate choice of living single for the Lord. But there are also other people who find themselves in a spot na parang hindi naman talaga nila pinili. At least at first glance. Like, say, people who somehow may be aspiring to be married and then couldn't find a partner. Some people who have serious difficulty, or, like, say, somehow they need to figure out their sexuality even, and they need to confront that in terms of the state of life that they need to take, or that
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna have, or other different things. For example, I also know some people na may sakit ang mga magulang, and no one's gonna take care of them. And part of that, well, hindi na nakapag-asawa, or parang confronted with the choice na, do I actually have a choice here, Lord? Like, do I have time for my own vocation? Somehow
Uh-huh.
this has become my vocation. Parang ganun. I don't want to be oblivious to that. And there are so many complexities in this world that we need to grapple and understand. I just want to say na in the perspective of the Lord is going to work through our situations. The Lord is going to work in our circumstances. And that He's going to use whatever state of life we're in to, again, to bless us, but also to make us holier and to help us become better people. Ibig sabihin, there's going to be a great deal of suffering either way. But I also believe that even if we have those circumstances, I think the Lord is still giving us a chance to make a choice. Kasi pwede naman natin talikuran kung ano yung nasa harap natin. And the Lord will present that possibility of you being single for a very important purpose, but it's still possible for us to turn that down. It's still a choice. So every day, I have to make a choice to live single for the Lord, because I can sometimes forget it. Sometimes I just want to go and live by the beach. Ganun na lang yung gusto kong gawin. Ayoko na sundan si Lord. Ayoko na magtrabaho para sa CYA. I don't wanna, like, pray now. And I just wanna be beside the beach and swimming, and that's my kind of, like, life. And I have to remind myself na, no, I made a choice, and I have to keep on making this choice every day. And I think that's also true for all of us. Especially for people out there, that you're still capable of making a choice, even if you got those circumstances with you. I just want to also give you hope na naiintindihan kayo ni Lord. And the Lord is also giving you this choice to do this for Him. My invitation is for you to do that for the sake of the Lord now, if that's where you are. And then if you are called to marriage, my recommendation or my challenge for you is to actually do that for the Lord also. And it's possible for us to be blessed by the Lord, but also be trained in holiness in those states of life.
That's very nice because
Ganda.
we're able to touch into different aspects of being single, basically.
Mm-mm.
And at the end, you're able to tell them that it's all about, returning to God as a purpose for it, no matter what,
Yes.
diba? No matter what
Yes.
route they
Yes.
take. But, you mentioned earlier that you keep reminding yourself to choose that every day, that you made this choice of lifestyle, of devotion, of commitment, right?
Yes.
So, since we're bridging two different sides of the story about singles and of course yung mga hindi single natin, and FRC fam, maybe you have this question lingering in your head, no? But are you still open to love?
Romantic love, no. I've made a decision naman na, okay, Lord, I'm not gonna marry anymore. So that's definite for me. But I'm open to the love of friendship, the love of God, brotherhood and sisterhood. So yeah, I'm very much open to that. And I need that actually because precisely the point, I'm not gonna have erotic love. Ang dami ko sinabi. Yung sagot lang naman is no.
Next explanation, syempre. But meron bang
Oo.
lumalabas in your community? Like, some brothers would be like, oh, I think I found this girl. This is worth it.
Like in many congregations and many promises, may mga nag-promise talaga na who eventually parang overturn their promise. So it happens. Parang over the years, natuto din kami how to be more, kasi bata pa yung group namin. In fact, we're only celebrating our 50th anniversary. So that's very new compared to the different organizations, congregations out there. So, pero natututo na kami na yan, yung realities of life and complexities of a man that will lead to certain choices like this. So I think we're able to anticipate that. But because we are human beings and we also have we're in a spiritual battle, I am definitely aware that could happen. Na nagkamali ako or parang nawalan ako ng drive to live this way and so on and so forth. But I'd say, as much as possible, I want to make sure to safeguard my commitment. So that would mean I need to be disciplined in how I relate to women, how I relate to people in general, how my private life is, so on and so forth, so that I could remain true to my promise. But I would say everything is God's grace.
Na tao lang talaga tayong lahat.
Amen. Tama.
The only way to get through it, of course, is through God's grace. Which I appreciate you bring it up consistently. Kasi no matter what stage in your life, no, parang you've always been directly connected to God. And that's very nice. I'm pretty sure our FRC fam out there, marami na naman tayong takeaways.
Yes.
Blessing,
Grabe.
definitely.
Very rich.
Ang pagiging single, we've had it from our stories and sharings for today, no? And thank you, JR. Thank you kasi you shared your journey with us and you trusted us with your story. So, nakakatuwa lang, Rap. Nakakatuwang makarinig na may mga ibang tao nagreklamo sila na, oh my God, single pa rin ako. Wala na ba ako mahanap? Diba? Oh my gosh, what is the world, like, diba? What's happening in the world? And syempre, nahihirapan tayo na, oh, pandemic, like, wala akong kausap. I have
very
stories,
real.
right?
Oh,
Na,
yes.
diba? Parang, and even nagkaroon ng spike ng marriage ng 2021. I think that's like the time na may mga taong nakaka-realize that life is short. But, you know, parang, it's just very refreshing to hear that Jerry over here is giving us that hope na okay lang maging single. Like, diba? Andiyan mo si God, di ka mag-isa. You have brotherhood as long as you have that support system, and naging malaking factor din yun is your family. So hindi nawawala rin yung support system that we're getting from our family. So it's just very nice, and sobrang kikita nyo naman, sobrang akong curious sa mga questions ko.
Saya nga eh.
I speak for half of our FRC fam out there who's watching us today, especially for the young ones. Siyempre, young pa rin naman ako. Wow! But yeah. So it's just, thank you so much for your sharing and your story, Jared. It's very inspiring. And thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome. Thank you also. Yeah.
And ako naman, siguro just quick takeaways, no? There really is blessing in commitment, in committing ourselves to the decisions that we make, especially before the Lord. So very striking for me how it's important to ask ourselves at any point in our lives, how can I love and serve you, Lord? Diba? Like, yun yung mga questions na magdidirect talaga tayo to big decisions that will lead us to greater commitment but also greater blessing. So maraming salamat again, JR, for this time with us and the rest of FRC fam. Thank you. And we'd like to also greet happy 50th sa Servants of the Word.
Thank you.
May you continue to really reach more brothers to this kind of life.
Yes. Baka you have like any contact information that you'd want, or like a page of your community, maybe some of
baka may interested pala
would like to
sa
reach
single.
out to your community. So yeah, feel free to.
Yeah. So we got Facebook page, Servants of the Word PH. So that's gonna be, because we're also in different parts of the world. So, but you can reach us there. But I would highly recommend first to get to know us through our mission. Kasi para mas maintindihan nyo din kung ano yung ginagawa namin and how we can actually get to know the Lord much more fully. So I work for Christ's Youth in Action. I would want you to go to that site also, christsyouthinaction.com or Lingkod ng Panginoon pages. So that's where we normally work, and that's also where we help younger guys and even like women figure out what they think the Lord wants for them. So that's it.
There you have it, FRC fam. So you know where to reach JR and the rest of his community. And again, we thank you kasi sinamahan niyo na naman kami in another episode. Again, this is Chai.
And Rap, who leave you with the wise words of Venerable Patrick Peyton that
The family that prays together stays together.
and the world at prayer is a world at peace. God bless
Bye,
you guys.
fam!